Why did Jesus curse the fig tree? Early one spring morning, just before Passover, Jesus walked with his disciples up the Mount of Olives toward Jerusalem. The day before, Jesus' disciples had found a donkey for him to ride on Palm Sunday. But on this morning there is no mention of crowds. Instead, they walked alone until they came to a fig tree. Even today, wild figs can be seen growing here and there on the Mount of Olives. When Jesus approached the tree, he poked around among the branches looking for fruit. But he didn't find any, since, as Mark correctly reminds us, it was not yet the season for figs. So Jesus cursed the tree and it withered. But why would he curse the tree for its lack of fruit when it wasn't the season for figs? Jesus wasn't ignorant of the seasons. The late fruit and leaves of the fig is the whole point of his parable in Matthew 24. It's based on the fact that the leaves of the fig tree appear later than other trees. The figs that ripen, usually in May or June, become the first ripe figs that were so highly prized in Israel. But when Jesus approached this fig tree, there were leaves, but no figs. Jesus mentioned just such a situation in a parable he told earlier, when he and the disciples were still making their way up to Jerusalem. He told a parable about a fig tree that bore no fruit for 3 years. And so its owner planned to chop it down. The central point of the parable is clear: a tree without fruit will eventually be destroyed. Jesus wasn't the only prophet to mention a fig tree without fruit. Jeremiah said, "I will make an end of them, declares the Lord. There will be no grapes on the vine, and no figs on the fig tree, and the leaf will wither, and what I have given them will pass away." Jeremiah's tree without figs is a picture of destruction, a destruction that would come because of Israel's apostasy. The prophecy of Micah is even closer. Micah laments a lack of good fruit, a picture of the lack of godly people in the land. Jesus, too, was searching for a first-ripe fig and couldn't find one. For those who know biblical prophecy, the meaning is clear. It was a prophecy of God's coming judgment and destruction of an unfruitful generation. Both Matthew and Mark confirm this understanding by the events they place just before and after it in their Gospels. The first of these is the cleansing of the temple, when Jesus cast out all those who were buying and selling in an area that should have been for worship. This was a public rebuke to the priestly leadership, who allowed these people to be there for a price, an unholy bribe paid to the leadership of the temple. The second was his debate with the high priests and elders. This is when Jesus told a parable about some tenant farmers who refused to give the landowner his part of the harvest. Then Jesus explained the meaning: the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and be given to a people yielding its fruit. The cursing of the fig tree was another expression of this same message. All of this took place 40 years later in the Jewish war against Rome. There is no hint in Matthew or Mark that the disciples understood what Jesus was doing at the time. They were simply amazed by the miraculous withering of the fig tree. So Jesus took the opportunity to teach them about faith, the very faith that was lacking in the nation's leaders. If you have faith and do not doubt, not only will you do what happened to the fig tree, but if you say to this mountain, "Be taken up and thrown into the sea," it will happen. The faith Jesus spoke of was not just a zealous boldness. The word itself implies trust, a trust in God. Our faith should not be based on belief in our own power or righteousness. This is what leads to religious hypocrisy. which in the end turns religion against God Himself. Instead, we must have God's own faith, the perfect trust that God Himself has, and earnestly desires to share with us.
But I'm sure there's got to be more to the story.
There is. You can read it in the original blog post. The link is in the description below.
Thanks.